What's the worst thing a teacher has ever done to your child? My 8-year-old Emma came home from school clutching her left arm against her chest, tears streaming down her face. She could barely get her backpack off without wincing in pain. "Mommy, I fell off the monkey bars during recess and heard this really loud crack," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Did you tell your teacher what happened?" I told Mrs. Miller it really hurt bad, but she rolled her eyes at me and said I was being dramatic. She told me to stop crying and made me go back to class with everyone else. Mrs. Miller never called me, never sent her to the nurse's office, absolutely nothing. The moment I saw Emma's arm when she got home, I knew something was seriously wrong. It was already swelling up like a balloon, turning dark purple and blue, and she couldn't move her fingers without crying out in pain. I immediately drove her to the emergency room. The ER doctor took one look at her arm and ordered immediate x-rays without hesitation. "2 clean breaks in her radius bone," he said, showing me the x-ray images on his computer screen. When I called the school the next morning to speak with the principal, Mrs. Miller had the absolute audacity to claim Emma never mentioned being hurt at all. "She seemed perfectly fine to me throughout the entire day," Miller said dismissively over the phone. "Kids complain about every little thing these days. You can't take them seriously." My husband works in tech and had recently given me a tiny recording device for my keychain after some break-ins happened in our neighborhood. I carefully tucked it into Emma's backpack the next morning and told her to keep it close whenever Mrs. Miller was talking around her. The very next day, we hit absolute jackpot with what we caught. During lunch period, Mrs. Miller was having a conversation with another teacher in the hallway outside the cafeteria. Emma was walking by to throw away her lunch tray when she heard Miller say, "I knew that Emma girl was actually hurt yesterday, but honestly, if I called parents every single time one of these kids cried about something minor, I'd never get any actual teaching done during the day. They all need to toughen up and stop being so sensitive." The other teacher responded with concern. "But what if she was really seriously injured? Then her parents should have taught her to speak up louder and be more assertive." Miller laughed coldly. I printed the medical bills, burned the audio to CD, and marched into Principal Brown's office the next morning like I owned the place. "We need to have a serious talk about Mrs. Miller's decision to completely ignore my daughter's broken arm," I said firmly, sliding the thick stack of medical paperwork across his desk. Brown looked genuinely confused. "But Mrs. Miller specifically told me that Emma never reported any kind of injury to her." I placed my CD player on his desk and hit play. His face went absolutely horrified as Miller's voice filled the room. Brown quickly stopped the recording, his hands shaking slightly. "This recording is definitely Mrs. Miller? Recorded yesterday during lunch period. She knowingly ignored my daughter's broken arm and then deliberately lied to you about it." Brown picked up his phone. "Mrs. Miller, please come to my office immediately. We have an urgent matter to discuss." When Miller confidently walked into the office and saw me sitting there with all my paperwork, her face instantly went ghost white. "We need to discuss your handling of Emma's injury yesterday," Brown said calmly. Miller started to speak in her defense, but Brown held up his hand firmly and pressed play on the recording again. Miller's own voice filled the room once more. "I knew that Emma girl was actually hurt yesterday. Mrs. Miller," Brown said quietly but firmly, "you're terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you out of the building." Miller desperately tried to argue and make excuses, but Brown cut her off completely. "You deliberately ignored a child's serious injury, lied about it to administration, and showed callous disregard for student safety. There's absolutely nothing left to discuss here."